When you see a construction company with revenues over 1 million, it's easy to think they must be doing great. They see a big turnover and think that's what you take home, that's what's in like your bank. But in reality, once it's all like stripped back and you paid all your bills, it's got nothing to do really with what your turnover is. It's all about what you keep. And if you're not careful, or if you haven't got the right systems, that year's worth of hassle and stress might make you minimum wage, or even worse, cost you money. We're a seven-figure painting contractor, and that might sound good, but let me show you where all that money goes. The first and the biggest is the actual staff doing the work. That's about a 55% labour to turnover ratio. We actually aim for around 50, but with like salary increases and stuff like that, it's closer to 55 now. So on £1 million, you're looking at around 550,000 of that just on direct labour. Then you've got the overhead staff, so like contract managers, estimators, QSs, etc. That's around another 10%. The next big one after that is materials. Now, obviously, depending on what specification of jobs you're working on and stuff like that, that's around 10%. Next one, insurances. So that's employers' liability, public liability, fleet policies on vans, stuff like that. That's around 1.5 to 2%. The next decent one is consultants. So that could be your accountant, your health and safety consultant, things like that. That's around another 1%. Another one that people miss is depreciation. So that's on your vans, your plant, your tools, things like that. That's around another percent. And then the last sort of big one is your overhead, your general overhead. So like bank fees, clothing, rent, business development, IT, all that sort of good stuff. That's then around another 10%. And that's before I even pay myself. So on the basis that the jobs are actually profitable, this leaves around 10 to 15% for risk and then potential profit. Even just a job going back a few months into the next financial year can mean your turnover drops, and all of a sudden those percentages I've just give you above, they're much higher. For our first 3 years, we barely broke even, and that was because I was still in a job, which kept the overhead low. Here's a rough example of how it works for us. So on £1 million turnover, you've got direct labour at around 55%, as I said previously. That's about 550. You've then got about 100 grand's worth of materials. You've then got around 200,000 or about 20% in overheads. So that's your office staff, your rents, your consultants, your insurances, your systems, vans, all that sort of stuff. Then you've got sort of bad jobs or like a non-payment sort of pot. That's around 5%. So about 50,000 in this instance. Right. So adding all that together, that leaves around 100,000 profit before tax. Obviously in the UK, corporation tax is 25%. So there's another 25 grand off. So you're left with 75,000 before personal tax. And that's if everything goes well. And obviously it really does. One bad job and that can just disappear. Obviously, if you do everything yourself, your QSing, your estimating, your admin, you can take a chunk off that overhead and really drive it down. But that comes with doing a lot more work yourself, wearing more hats, things like that. So there's then the added stress of essentially running a business by yourself. One thing we've noticed with money, everyone makes the same mistakes, just in slightly different ways. So I ended up answering the same questions. So I just pulled together all our best tips into one place. So if you're in construction, I think it could be for you. They're all free. The link's below. It might just stop you making the same mistakes we did. So how can you ensure that you keep your profit at the levels that they're forecasted? Here's my best tips on it. Track every job properly. Not just the invoices, but all the extra hours, all the variations, any materials, any delays. Make sure you're recording everything and submitting it properly at the end of each month. Price jobs with proper margin. Guesswork doesn't pay wages. Work with repeat clients. When you get repeat work with clients that you trust, you get better cash flow, you can do better forecasting, and you have less arsing round. Keep your overheads tight. Just because you're earning more doesn't mean you should spend more. And then lastly, have another income stream. For us, that's property. It's what we know. It's what we're experienced in. So that for us is just the direction we went in. But having a separate income stream, it just means when things do get a bit tight in the main business, there is something else that you can call upon just to help sort of month to month. If you're working harder than ever and seeing less, you're not alone. It's not your effort. It's your systems. It's time to change the model, not just start working harder. Remember, you can be fully booked and still be making no money. It's partly the reason you are fully booked. That's not because you're bad at your trade, but because no one taught you how to price properly once it's more than just you and a van. That's where the real sustainability starts. So when people say, you've got a seven-figure business, you must be loaded, I laugh because I know the truth. It's not how big the number is, it's how much you keep. And more importantly, how long you can keep going. If you're in construction, you'll know the money side of things can feel like the hardest part. Cash flow, overheads, month-end dread. We're not perfect ourselves, but we've built systems that give us consistency and more freedom than we've ever had before. So we've put our best financial lessons into our email series, along with other operational tips to drive down costs. It's called the 31 Ways for 31 Days. Really good tips on cash flow, tracking jobs, managing overheads, and keeping your sanity. The link for it's below. If this video's helped, watch another one of our videos here. If you can like and comment, it really helps the algorithm, and we'll see you in the next one. I'm glad that's over. Can you hear my nose? Fucking hell. But yeah, let's keep that in.